Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the What Goes on Tour vodcast with New Zealand, the All Blacks on tour in South Africa. And first of all, thank you to all of you who have engaged the vodcast on YouTube. Great numbers from last week when we were in conversation with Justin Marshall and Kobus Wiese, and then post the test match at Ellis Park with Rudy Page and again Justin Marshall, who had to go early to celebrate. So we only had him for a couple of minutes. And fair play to him. But thank you for all your engagement and your comments on the vodcast. Keep them coming. And we're going to take another trip down memory lane in this edition by going back 30 years, as we did last week, to the last time the All Blacks were on a test match tour of South Africa. And two men who, again, were involved in that tour, Jeff Wilson, Joel Stransky. And as we did last week, very respectfully, we start with our visitor. And Jeff, you've been back many times to South Africa since then, but how special to be back on a proper test match tour and reminiscing about what you achieved, the only All Black team to achieve it 30 years ago.
I love that word proper, because it's right. This is a proper tour, right? This is what you are seeing week on week, game after game, great intensity. And that's probably why I was so excited to come back, was the fact I wanted to compare this tour to what happened and 30 years ago. And gosh, we look good, don't we? Well, maybe you, I'm not sure. Where were you 30 years ago?
Still at school.
Yes, that's right, exactly. That's what it feels like. But that's this test match feel, this touring feel, the fact that each week it's a different challenge, the conversation we had one pre this, just anticipating what might happen next. So for me, it's great to be here. It's fantastic to be here in Cape Town. I wasn't here for the early part of the tour. This is fantastic. This is special. Wonderful looking stadium. I just can't wait to move on and move forward. But I suppose we're looking back, and it's got that feel about it. It's got that what happens now, what happens next.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to let Jeff dominate the conversation in terms of 96 only, because the 96 series, Joel, had additional spice because of a certain game at Ellis Park just under a year earlier. Which was pretty significant.
It was quite significant. But just before we get there, Matt, I just want to touch on a proper tour. I want to touch on a proper tour as well, because this is a proper tour. But if it was a little more proper, we'd have sent the All Blacks to Kimberley and Potchefstroom and made you play on hard pitches and really soften you up for the test like they did in the old days. But talking about the old days back to 1995, it was a special time for us as South Africans, and wonderful victory, turning point for us politically as a nation. And nice that sport played a little role. And, of course, it's nice to have been involved in a test match at home and win a World Cup, particularly against the All Blacks.
Your opposite number, Andrew Mertens, in that game, he's in South Africa. Yeah. He wouldn't miss a tour like this. He's quite humorous on that, Jeff. He says, this guy gets all the credit for one drop goal. He said, nobody thinks about the fact that I missed three.
No, I do.
And
he said,
I don't think I get enough credit. He said, you wouldn't have had a Hollywood movie, you wouldn't have had a Rainbow Nation if I had got one of those drop goals.
Yeah, I get it. I didn't realise we were going back 31 years. I thought we were just going back 30
set
years
up nicely,
forward.
haven't you?
I have 100% been set up. But you're right. I think that set up the tour in terms of how desperate the All Blacks in 96 were to get a result, to try and create history, yes, but for that group, there were so many people who were involved in that famous day, and it was a wonderful day for South African rugby. There was no doubt about it. The World Cup itself was incredibly special. Like it was amazing. The whole event, everything, and I think for the All Blacks and the Springboks to have played in that final, I think was fitting.
And Sean Fitzpatrick has said many times he felt and you felt as a team that despite the disappointment of the result, that you were part of something much bigger than a game of rugby that day.
Yeah, absolutely. But what it did do, I suppose, is prepare for 12 months later, or that tour, and how much more important it was for that group to go out and play. But you're right. We were a part of something special. The game, obviously Nelson Mandela coming on the field, and the country, like you say, was so positive. It was, it was a turning point, it seemed, and I think it really reintroduced South African rugby back to the world after being on the sidelines for so long. Yes, it sort of toured New Zealand, but I don't think it had become global. All of a sudden, a global event in South Africa, the place was buzzing.
And Joel, that saw the advent of professionalism, and there was the first Tri-Nations in 1996, and you finished that tournament with a test match against the All Blacks in Cape Town, which wasn't part of the series, but you lost a little bit of momentum. You lost your captain, Francois Pienaar, and then the series started in Durban.
So even to go back a little step before that, we had a new coach. Andre Markroft came in, slightly different change in mindset. You know, he broke the team up a little bit. It wasn't quite the same environment. A few injuries. Obviously, to lose Francois in that test was a massive loss for us. And the evolution into professional rugby. You know, there was like a little bit of a sidetrack as well. You know, there was other things on the mind. And I think we went into that series probably not as good as we were the year before, to be quite frank, to be really blunt about it. We still wanted to beat the All Blacks. We certainly didn't want to lose the series at home. We certainly put heart and soul into it. But I don't think we were at our best as individuals and as a team, and we came unstuck a little bit. That first test at Newlands, I think, probably set the tone, which was for us quite of a slap on the head and a little bit of a wake up call, I guess. And it was obviously a big confidence booster for the All Blacks. And on our shores then to lose at Newlands, to then have to try and step up and try and improve. New coach, new mindset, new team, new captain. It was pretty tough, and we didn't manage to do it.
It was massive for us, the first test, even though it wasn't part of the series. It just getting that belief, and we had to come back in the second half to win that game. You guys were good in the first 40, and it took a long time to get on top of you, like every other game that we've ever had against the Springboks. So I think it gave us belief, but set up the tour, knowing, okay, this is what it's going to take. This is how hard it's going to be. Then you go to Durban, and we know how that's intimidating there. I mean, it is a place to play, and I hadn't played there against the Springboks. Obviously, that we'd visited through Super Rugby, and you got an understanding, engaged. But man, it was something that was intense. It was special. But same thing as the belief from the week before, it sort of just carried over, and then it was like, well, we need to win that. We need to build momentum. We need to continue to play well and get the confidence to try and get to that next level.
And as the All Blacks have done on this tour, you go one up in that series in Durban, and so many of your teammates, not least Justin Marshall, who was on his first tour of South Africa in '96 with the All Blacks, and he says the mindset ahead of test number 2 at Loftus was, we have to win the series here. We don't want to go to Ellis Park for a decider.
Yeah, when you're taking on the Springboks, the Ellis Park is the spiritual home. It feels like that's going to be the toughest place to beat them. It felt as though Pretoria was going to present that opportunity, and we didn't want to have to go there and have to win. So get the job done now, so that we can not relax, but know the fact that we're not going to the Mecca. We're not going somewhere that is going to be incredibly hard to win, and also we don't have to deal with the memories of a year before, because those are very much real things, right? You don't want to add the layers that you have to deal with into a big test. And Pretoria, it was a remarkable test match because we got punched on the nose quickly early, and then we had to turn around, and we were playing at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and we got on top, and then it was a furious last 15 minutes. Man, that's when I think I realised how much it meant for Springbok Rugby. Yes, I know the World Cup final, but then you saw there was a shift that we can't let this happen. Even if we can just eke out a draw, just find a way to get it tied, so at least the test match, the final test in Johannesburg, has meaning.
Yeah, and maybe going back to Durban a second. Durban for us was all important. We had to step up and come back, and we didn't. We went to Pretoria, I guess, even on a step lower from a confidence perspective, with even more pressure and the pressure mounting. And we put our hearts and souls into it, but it was a tough day against a really good All Black side, well captained by Fitzy. Fitzy. So my daughter, by the way, was born the day before the Durban test, and so in the first few minutes,
that's poor planning. That's poor planning. That really is. Congratulations, but that's poor planning. Yeah, that's on you. That's not on anybody else.
And I wasn't allowed to go back for the birth, so I was grumpy already, but. First minute of the game, I got a big gash on my forehead. I was lying there on the floor, bleeding and looking around. And Fitzy came in. I thought he was going to say, "How are you feeling? Everything okay?" He stuck his hand out and went, "Congrats on the birth of your daughter." But
then you did the big wraparound, eh?
The big wraparound.
I love when a player gets the big wraparound.
Especially at 10.
Especially at 10. And it wasn't pretty wraparound either. Done at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Love it.
Oh, no. But I think I actually wore the wraparound at Loftus as well.
You did, just
for protection. But it was a tough time for us, Matt. And to lose at Loftus and to know we'd lost the series was horrible.
And this series, Joel, billed as rugby's greatest rivalry. And it's irked a few people. But to me, anyway, the stats don't lie. The history is there. What did it mean to you? So many Springboks say, they make a debut for the Springboks and then a debut against the All Blacks. Did it feel like that for you?
It definitely felt like that for me. So I grew up here in Cape Town as a little pickie and played barefoot rugby as a little oak, and playing in the garden or playing around at school at break time. The dream was always to play for the Springboks against the All Blacks. That's it. That's just what it was. We grew up wanting to. That was our big ambition, and that sort of sums it up. And to grow up with that dream, to then for it to come to fruition is the dream. And we judge ourselves against the All Blacks. Yes, France are a great side at the moment, and there's other teams that are competing. And the last few years, it's the dynamics of world rugby have changed a little, but the great rivalry, the great history, the great legacy for us as South Africans, and I think for you guys as Kiwis, will always be between our two great rugby playing nations.
And in this era of professionalism, commercialization of the sport, Jeff and I were having this chat before we came to shoot, and if we're realistic, it's unlikely that in the near future, at least, either of our countries are going to host a Rugby World Cup again, because of the commercial reality of the game. So what we have now, which is a test series tour of each other's countries every 4 years, it becomes even more special, doesn't it?
Well, there's no doubt. Look, the Northern Hemisphere looks at this. I mean, we call it the greatest rivalry because, like you say, history says that these are two of the most successful teams. They are the two best teams in the game. And I'll just quickly touch on the point around, playing against the Springboks. Like growing up, like for me in New Zealand, the 81 tour I was very, very young. And then the reintroduction and the All Blacks tour for the first time, I think 92. They came out here and played that first test. And I remember getting up for that test match and going, oh, now I understand. The Cavaliers tour, it was obviously controversial at the time, but still I wasn't that old enough to really understand deeply. But it was only once the tour started again, once you started to see it firsthand and you're playing in South Africa, and then you get a sense of, and the same motion of, okay, Super Rugby comes around and you're regularly playing against Springbok players and you go, they're built different. It is a different challenge. So for us and for me, it was only once I got to see it firsthand, you go, now I know why this is the biggest challenge. This is the most difficult part of it. And so that's what I think this is the true test. Yes, a one-off game at a Rugby World Cup final, and Springboks are deserved champions. Never going to argue with that. Don't get on me, okay? But what I'm saying is week on week now, dealing with injuries, tactical changes, different conditions, the state of the series. Man, I don't think it gets any better than that for me. This is a traditional tour. It reminds me very much, when Ireland toured New Zealand when they're at their peak. A 3-test series, they come and created history down there. When you're doing something like that, the intensity, what you expect week on week, there's nothing like it.
And it's not just the game, isn't it? It's also, the crowds and the fans. And I joked about it earlier about we should have taken you guys to Kimberley and Potchefstroom. But it is about taking the game to other venues, to other places. Getting more people to experience the fan experience and the player experience. For some of those young Sharks players the other night, as bad as they were, the Lions here on Tuesday evening, who was sensational for 50 or 60 minutes. I mean, for those players, that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They will never forget that. That's the highlight of their careers. That is so special for any rugby player, for any fan.
That's why the British and Irish Lions tours, right, work. They work. That's why they're special. You'll play the Māori All Blacks. You'll play some provincial teams. All of that just adds to, the anticipation, the build-up for the fans. They get all these different experiences.
We spoke about the advent of professionalism in rugby. Just on a slightly more personal note, Jeff, you're a double international. Not everybody knows that, but cricket and rugby. Was there ever a chance that you'd favour cricket over rugby?
Very much so. I grew up thinking I'd be a cricketer, and then I
were.
played Australia. Then I played Australia, and they were really good. So I decided I'm going to go the other way. I need some help here. I need 14 other oaks, as you would say, to help me out here because I wasn't quite good enough. Look, there was no doubt when I never thought I would be an All Black. I didn't grow up thinking that. It just sort of, the dominoes fell, as you'd like to say, in a certain way. I was playing for the right team, right coach, and I got an opportunity. But once you're there, it's different. Would I love to play South African cricket? Absolutely. I only got to play against Australia, which means I lost a lot. And to be fair, Brett Lee was steaming in, and Shane Warne's turning it both ways, and I like sending his flipper down. I felt as though I was a little bit out of my league, to be fair. But growing up, I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't. I have no regrets. I went back and played. Look, it was a It was a great experience being inside a different arena with a different type of pressure. Because cricket, you know this is a goal kicker, though, because it's on you. Cricket's like that. It is on you.
Yeah.
You know, you can get some help from the fielders, but ultimately you hold the bat or you're bowling the ball, and the outcome is determined by your performance.
If you don't want to feel out of your league again, don't ride a mountain bike against Joel
Well,
Stransky.
no,
he
what
just
else
talked
can-
about swimming 8Ks from there to there.
No,
That's
but,
absurd.
But what's even more impressive, Jeff, is that you're not aware. I'm a double South African representative as well.
What's the
The
second?
second one was Sudoku.
Oh,
We played a Sudoku
We did,
test.
a
We
test
did.
match, yeah.
Also against Australia, we also got beat, so don't feel too bad.
yeah.
I won the world championship.
Maybe they should focus on their rugby. Maybe Australia should focus on their rugby. How about that?
So we're a couple of days out from the second test of the series. Can we talk about mindset? With, it was said so often last week in the build-up to Test 1, and it is a mathematical certainty. You don't have to be a genius to work it out. But if you lose the first test, then you've got to win 3 in a row to win the series outright. So for South Africa, it's akin now to going quarterfinal, semi-final, final. And it went well for them the last time that happened, Jeff, just as a reminder. But
How many reminders am I going to get on this? I'm getting plenty.
but
Yeah, we surrounded you for a reason.
That's fine.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
fine.
mindset for the All Blacks, is it the same as you went 30 years ago into Loftus saying, let's make this week absolutely count?
Yeah, I think the 4-test series thing makes it feel a little bit unusual because it's not the decider, but you have complete control, and then you can't lose the series. But what you have to prepare for is something very, very different.
Yeah.
Because one team has got a different level of desperation, because the only way you keep it alive is to win. That's what the Springboks have to do. There is no other thought in their mind. Like you say, the All Blacks, they can't afford to relax. And I think it's a similar mindset. We didn't relax in 1996. We didn't take a day off. We didn't lose focus of what was the reason we came to South Africa is get it done and get it done now and take complete control, own that space. But I think here this is going to be a Springbok team which is wounded, is disappointed, know that they actually could have won that test match and they let it slip. It just went through their fingers and circumstances, and I'm sure we've debriefed all of that, but this will be a team selected to play a certain way, and the All Blacks know where they're coming, and they're going to have to be better.
And Joel, it's a strange one. You look at it, 5 tries to 1 at Ellis Park, but Jeff's right. That game turned on a couple of key moments, and there was a lot that the Springboks did really well.
There was a huge amount, and particularly early on. For the first 30 minutes, we dominated physically. We probably didn't create enough opportunities, but we had opportunities to get more points on the board, more tries. We didn't take them. Malcolm Marx lost the ball over the line. A little unlucky to have it tapped out of his hand. I thought we could have kicked 1 or 2 more goals and kept ourselves in the game, or just edged a little bit ahead. But boy, there was a lot of good. There was a lot of good, and for all that, we didn't see any change in the scoreboard, which is the most disappointing thing. I think the team that Rusty's picked this week, and by the way, the fact that he's announced it on Monday, is a matter of saying, listen, you 23 guys, this is your time to shine. Go forth now and conquer. The pressure's on you. We're handing responsibility now early in the week to say go and fix it and go and sort it out. So there's a mindset issue there as well for the 23 players, particularly the starting 15, and in particular the halfbacks, because I think that's where the main change has come. Interesting to see how they go this week, but what they have to be more clinical. Got to bully teams a little bit more, because that's our great strength. And we started bullying, and then scrum was parity after 35 minutes or so. We've got to just be more physical. We've got to bully, and we've got to play our game again, I think, and that's the team he's picked.
It just lost a little bit of shape for the Springboks through the course of the 80 minutes, and then the place the Springboks don't want to be is chasing a game.
Yeah.
They're a great front runner. You're a great front runner.
We're not good at chasing.
You're a great front runner, and the moment you could sense at the moment we got out to that 10-point lead, it was the fact that how are the Springboks going to find their way back into it, and then injuries and they didn't find their rhythm again the last 20 minutes. But that's a learning experience for them. And I think what we should talk about at some point is, though, that this is a different All Black outfit than it's been for a couple of years. They seem a lot more assured, clear, and very much more focused on how they want to play.
And what makes them different? There's obviously a mindset and something different in the makeup, but what is the little ingredient that's in there now?
So this is my sense, is the fact that what the coaching staff have done is they've given the culture to the players. The coaches have said, we're going to teach you how to play. We're going to coach you how to play. These are the expectations. This is the combinations that we're putting together, and with Ruben Love and with Damien McKenzie and Cam Roygaard and Geordie Barrett, who's obviously playing some fantastic rugby. And this is the sort of football we want to play. Let's see if the Springboks can stop us. Whereas I think for a few years we got on this, how do we counter the opposition at the same time play our own game? Every nation's got their strengths, right? You got to play to those.
And just a quick one, post-COVID, Super Rugby ceased to be as we knew it, and
do you want to come back?
No,
we had this.
We had this.
Come on back,
we had
please.
this
We'd love to see you again.
strange situation where we came to New Zealand last year. There were a number of young Springboks who had never been to New Zealand, as Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu, Ethan Hooker. Now the boot is on the other foot. You've got the likes of a Ruben Love coming to South Africa for the first time, never set foot in the country. So how important for this younger generation of All Blacks is a tour like this in their rugby evolution?
I don't know if I can emphasise how important that really is. As players, they will never be the same. They will be better prepared for any test match they come up against in the future because they've been through this experience. And like you say, we haven't been to some of the more challenging places, but they still sense and understand how hard it is to win here.
So Matt, I think this tour is for the next 30 years, and every tour hereafter is like game changing for All Black rugby.
Yeah.
Because no Super Rugby for the last 5 or 6 years, no experience week in, week out of playing against the hard physical side, the style of the South African teams. Now all of a sudden, these guys are saying, geez, we're playing night games against the Lions, the Stormers, whatever it is. It's week in, week out. It's hard. They'll be much better prepared when they go to France or wherever they play next, the All Blacks. And next year, come the World Cup, they're going to know exactly how to confront South Africa's physical game.
And it'll be the same for some young Springboks in 2030 when they go on a multiple week tour of New Zealand.
Even next year as well, though. The fact that it's in Australia. And so the team that went to last year went to New Zealand and had to play those 2 test matches. They'll be better for that experience, understand the environment. Look, this is what's wonderful about this touring concept. And I'm glad that everyone's managed to get together, and because the world's about events now, right? They're about you need to go to events. This is an event, and you'll be there. You can't miss that next tour in New Zealand, right? You'll be there front and centre.
I hope so, Goldie.
You'll be 72 years old. You'll be on your Zimmer frame, but we'll be going.
But it is, as we said earlier, rugby's greatest rivalry for a good and valid reason. And it's moments like this that make it every bit as special. To see the two of you here reminiscing about 95 and 96.
I'm glad we won in 96 because I don't know how happy I would have been to see him after 95. So it's always great to see that.
You made your piece of history, and no one can ever take that away from you, nor can they take that away from Joel Stransky and what that Springbok team achieved in 95. So it's all part of the fabric of this amazing rivalry.
I'll just say this, is that you want you want everyone in their lives to have a team they're part of that's something that binds you, that connects you. Whether it's a club team, a school team,
a sense of community.
Community where the word goes out, we're having a get-together, and everyone comes, and everyone had a piece of that and owned that, and you'll always share that special moment. That's what makes the grain go.
And this is the game, isn't it? The game of rugby union that brings us. We go and smash each other on the field, and we flip and hate you for 80 minutes.
Not so much us.
Yeah, no,
us smashing people.
Well, we try. We touch.
Yes. I'll just close the gap in front of me. Bunsey, where are you? Bunsey, make my tackles for me.
But then when you step off the field, and even past careers, we stay mates forever. That's the wonderful game of rugby union.
Well, it's been special to be in the company of both of you, reminiscing, looking back, and also having a little look ahead to what is going to be a very spicy test match behind us here at the DHL Stadium in Cape Town on Saturday. Thank you again for all your engagement. Keep the comments and the likes coming, and we'll see you again at the weekend on What Goes on Tour.
Rugby's greatest rivalry, live only on SuperSport.